Welcome, intrepid, extraordinary Landor webinar attendees. Uh, this is it. This is the final segment of an extraordinary endeavor that began 23 hours ago when Jane Garrity, the Landor&FITCH CEO, kicked this webinar off as the sun was rising in Sydney. And since then, it's been around the world. We've been following the sun. And I don't know if anybody that is attending this talk has been able to attend other talks. I have, and I've been blown away by the diversity of thinking, the big ideas, the sharp insights, the big picture prognosticating. I saw an awesome rantle, which is a word I just made up, which is a combination of rant and ramble, but it was awe-inspiring. As the sun is setting here in San Francisco, I'm exasperated, honored, and really excited to bring you the last piece of the extraordinary webinar. I'm going to push my content now. My name is Tom Sepanski. I lead the naming and verbal identity practice for Landor in the Americas region. What is naming and verbal identity? I'll try to answer that in real human terms, at least real human for me. I mean, for me, it started with a lifelong love of language and human behavior. And that turned into a 15-year career with Landor of intersecting language and human behavior with brand. And it's never been more engaging, never been more interesting, never been more exhausting than it is right now. I'm going to talk a little bit about brand voice. And I gotta tell you, I'm a little exhausted. I mean, not just from the anxiety of COVID or homeschooling or tremendous workload or any of that. I'm exhausted because there's just been so much to look at and so much to read and so much fascinating transformation of voice as brands and human beings start to come more in alignment than ever before with their use of language. And I can't get enough. I'm getting I don't know if you're all buddies with Oscar Munoz, CEO of United Airlines, but that guy's sending me like 3 emails a week, and I'm listening. I'm reading them all. I want to know what Oscar is doing to keep his people safe. I want to know what Oscar is doing to keep me safe. And by the time I'm done reading Oscar's email, I've got 10 more emails from other CEOs, and we're looking at ads. It's a little overwhelming. So at one point, I just wanted to push pause and collect my thoughts and get my bearings as both a lover of language and a lover and a creator of brand language in what is a historic time, and just get a sense of what's happening. And what I'm going to share with you over the next 10 or so minutes is the result of that. Now more than ever, we're basically scared shitless. I mean, it's a little unfair to say that, as we've evolved a bit past this. I think when I put this together, it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was a little bit more true then. But nevertheless, we're talking like it. And I don't know, probably most of you that are tuning into this, far too many of you, have experienced severe illness, even life-threatening illness, whether it's directly or indirectly by caring for a loved one or just caring for somebody, a colleague or a friend or something like that. And you may be familiar with how that changes language, how that those first few awkward conversations where your whole personality is gone. It's like it doesn't even exist. Their personality is gone. We have no dynamic anymore. We're just navigating around this big, horrible thing. And as a result, language changes. We start looking at pronouns a little bit too much. Like, is it an I statement? Is it a we statement? Our vocabulary starts to narrow. And then in come the cliches. I mean, that's when we need the cliches more than ever, and that's when we use them more than ever. And that's human behavior. It's human behavior. The thing that's fascinating to me is now it's also brand behavior, particularly at the head of the COVID outbreak. We saw all of these cliches over and over and over, and we're still seeing them. I picked out a few of my favorite. Apart but together. It was at one point hundreds of brands globally speaking with one voice, the voice of empathy. Unfortunately, there's no such thing as the voice of empathy. I mean, there's only so much overlap between a human being and a corporate entity, and it is almost impossible for a corporate entity to actually develop an empathetic voice. I've developed with clients hundreds of brand voices, and almost everyone says, we want an empathetic voice. And my response to that is, well, maybe we shouldn't write a thing. Maybe we should just have customer testimonials and let your customers do all of your talking for you, because that would be the closest thing to empathy that you could actually achieve. Empathy being the selfless channeling the feelings of another individual. Very, very difficult for a corporate entity, a brand voice, to be the voice of empathy. And even if it were possible, it might not be believable. People might not believe it. And it's interesting because that is what was happening, particularly at the beginning of the COVID outbreak, with all of the ads we started seeing. So apart but together, we've got your back. We're there with you. Now more than ever, like you saw before. If you saw Gabe Miller's rantle earlier today, which was amazing, he talked about the punch you in the face test. And the punch you in the face test is if you've got someone, be it a brand or be it a person, and if they're telling you, we're in this together and we're apart but together and we've got your back, if your instinct is to feel comforted by that, great. If your instinct is to punch them in the face, then it's not heartfelt. It's not authentic. It's not coming through. It's not truly empathetic. And I think a lot of those communications early on, and they're lingering. I mean, we're still hearing the tinkling of piano keys in the background and the somber, sensitive voiceovers and everything else. That is still, I would say, largely the default of the communications, that one single voice of empathy. And interesting, in these uncertain times, it's voice that is letting us see straight into the character of a brand. We're seeing straight into its humanity. Never before has humanity and brand behavior been so linked. And we're seeing straight into the soul of brands through voice. Character for a brand when you're facing crisis is no different than for a person when you're facing crisis. Character really represents how you respond to two simple questions. What can I do? What should I say? And it's interesting because the brands that can answer this question, you can spot from a mile away through their voice. The brands that can't answer these questions sound just the same as the rest. So I pulled a couple of examples of voices that I think are breaking through. They're brands that were able to answer these questions, and they're standing out. And I'm sure everybody has encountered them because, when there's such a homogenous pull towards a default voice of empathy, these voices really stand out. They make a huge impact. In fact, we probably think they're more populous than they are because they stand out so much. From beautiful burrito bowls to tempting tacos, you folks are sure cooking up some fiesta-worthy fare out there. Don't have certain ingredients? No need to make a superfluous store run. Simply substitute, substitute, substitute. At the store already? Don't see it in stock? A Trader Joe's crew member to suggest a swap out. Trader Joe's. So I categorize this as acknowledging, right? We know the 800-pound gorilla in the room. We're acknowledging that. But, thank you, Trader Joe's. Thank you for not losing your own sense of personality. Thank you for not losing your own voice. Thank you for acknowledging this and normalizing it for us and moving on. I think there are a ton of other examples that we could point to of brands that are acknowledging, but not losing track of who they are, of their personality, and using the right language to project that when a lot of people forget it. It's important we stay home. It's also important, now more than ever, to stay together and stay playful. Oreo is making a donation to Save the Children to help ensure nearly 30 million kids that depend on school for learning and meals are educated and fed. Now, this starts to get very, very interesting to me as a brand voice practitioner and as a language enthusiast and student of language. Now we start to see someone that is a brand that is not just acknowledging, but responding. And by responding, I mean doing something. These are largely in the form of charitable donations, CSR initiatives, things of that sort, not necessarily transforming the business, maybe not something they couldn't afford to do, but still, it helps make those words land with a little bit more believability, land with a little bit more impact, and just feel more refreshing, more engaging. Thank you. Thank you, Oreo. Yes, we want to be playful, and thank you for that contribution. And this is where I start getting very, very excited. Guys, by now we're all aware of the severity of COVID-19 and probably exhausted from the anxiety of it all. And while we don't want to add to the stress, we do want to let you know how we're dealing with it at Ref. This is Reformation, a fashion brand that's very big on sustainability and has an amazing voice. As it's a complicated situation, these plans might change, and if so, we'll let you know. As always, we're available on the Corona Immune Intranet. And this is the point that it was the reason why I included it in this selection. Lastly, we're not sure exactly what's appropriate for a company like ours to be talking and posting about right now. What's resonating with you? Do you still want to hear about our new collections and sustainability related stuff? Or do you need a break? Now, seemingly a small little thing from Reformation, but actually a big jump. Even a big jump from corporate giving or CSR, I categorize this as participating in the event. Right? You're breaking down walls, you're engaging, you're admitting vulnerability, you're admitting you don't have all the answers. This is a brand to me that can answer those two questions. What do? We change things up. What should we say? We ask very honestly, what do our customers want to see from us? And do they want to see nothing? If so, then we show them nothing, and we're willing to do that. A small little thing, and this happens on various different scales, a small little thing, but a whole different level of voice and a whole different level of action that's paired with that voice, participating. Here's another example. This would be an example of something bigger. And this is a former client of ours, Canada Goose. We worked on their voice for them. I was super proud to see them really, really not losing that voice and really staying true to their core brand. It's the Canadian thing to do. Canadian heritage, Canadian citizenship, very, very important, very, very core to the Canada Goose brand. Across Canada, there are people risking their lives every day on the front lines of COVID-19 in healthcare facilities, and they need help. Now is the time to put our manufacturing resources and capabilities to work for the greater good. Our employees are ready, willing, and able to help, and that's what we're doing. Canada Goose. That definitely passes the punch in the face test for me. I mean, I find that hugely, hugely inspiring. Now, not just as a piece of language, especially not just as a piece of language. It's beyond language. It's the linking of language and action at a higher level, action at the participation level. This is a brand that is showing strength of character through voice and through action. And this is where the transformation of voice is headed, and this is what's super exciting to me. I have never seen in my lifetime as many examples of brands that are actually participating in the solution, that are actually participating in the overall story, even if they're transforming their business to do it. Now, some have to do it, and some are compelled by government to do it, but it still is, it's an inspiring and exciting development and transformation for voice. These things aren't mutually exclusive. There does seem to be a curve, and there definitely seems to be a raising of the bar as far as what people are expecting of their brands and their brand's character. Acknowledging, absolutely welcome. Responding, absolutely appreciated. But participating is become the new benchmark. It's becoming the new bar to hit as far as brands that are really breaking through and really changing people's perceptions of them. To experience it, super inspiring. To champion it inside an organization, your brand manager all the way up to a CEO, can be really, really daunting. There's a lot of things you've got to be able to figure out and able to answer, what can we do? What should we say? Earlier this afternoon, I think it was about 6 hours ago, we heard Thomas Ordahl talking about the importance of purpose and brand resiliency. I'll talk to clients all day about their brand personality. And that's the language of the trade, right? The branding jargon, the tools we use, purpose and personality. Again, just to contrast it or compare it and make a parallel with just basic humanity. I just channeled my mom. I mean, this is what I heard from her, and it's just as true for brands. Don't forget who you are. Don't forget why you're there. Don't forget why you have audiences, you have customers, you have people that love your brand, that trust your brand. Don't forget that in the face of a crisis. Delivering value, adding value, adding value, adding value all the time, regardless of whether you're an in-demand brand or not. You're searching for relevance. It's all about delivering more value than ever before. And then this is a popular one with my mom. Make yourself useful. Make yourself useful. What are you going to do to be part of the solution, and how far are you willing to go? Is it a transformation of business, or is it as simple as asking your readers, your consumers, your audiences, we don't know what to do. What would you like to see here? And transformation at pace. I mean, big decisions getting made really, really quickly. I mean, massive decisions that would take sometimes years to make for brands and organizations. They have to be made really quickly because, this stuff is changing by the day. This stuff is changing by the day. So, don't put off till tomorrow what you can do today. Little bits of homespun wisdom that are just as potent and just as powerful as some of our very, very high-powered branding tools. So I think it's safe to say that, we're all experiencing what is a profound moment of global humanity. It's transforming everything, but it's transforming voice in a way, for me, which is very, very powerful, very, very personal. It's all about the humanity. It's about voice no longer being an exercise of language. I've developed hundreds of brand voices in my career, and the vast majority of those voices are about language. They're about, and we can delineate any way we want. We can talk about messaging. We can talk about tone. We can talk about content development. We can talk about social. It's all language. It's language and behavior around the brand. I'm getting less interested in developing voices that are strictly about language. They need to be linked to action. They need to be linked to characters of high quality, and the commitment behind those characters. And I think that's what I'd like to take away from this profound moment of global humanity. That's what I'd like brands to take away from this global moment of profound humanity. That's what I'd like audiences to take away, to be expecting and demanding those things of the brands they want to participate in, the brands they want to trust. I'm a little nervous as we all race towards the new normal and we want to get back to the way things were. There are some things I don't want to let go of. You know, if a voice reverts to simply being a matter of language, if we forget the demands of real character for a brand, if we forget this profound moment of global humanity, then shame on us. Shame on us. I don't want to be thinking about brand voice or brand communication simply as a matter of language. I want to be thinking about answering these questions. What can I do? What should I say next? Even as we go on beyond the COVID crisis, even as we go on to whatever's after that, God forbid, the next crisis after that. These are the questions that we need to be answering and acting on.